Hello friends, I welcome you all to this online session of Compulsory English BA Part 3. In the last few sessions, I think in the last two sessions, we have already completed the reading comprehension of module number 1 Part B, that is the interview. We come to know that this part is in fact a small funny abstract written by V.V. Jones, and we read it because in module number 1 part A we read or we learn communicate bunch of skills that are required for the interview, and immediately in module number 1 part B we are reading or we were learning this unit, that is the interview. So in this small reading comprehension unit we learn the actual situation, or here this Professor John is also giving us different kinds of practical advices, practical examples, or give us a practical instance, and also tell us in a very funny and critical way or critical manner. So in the last two sessions, we have already completed the reading comprehension of this small funny abstract, the interview. So in this session, let us continue with the exercise of this unit. In exercise, we have two parts. First part is a scheming and scanning type of questions, and second is a reading comprehension type of questions. Basically, scheming and scanning type of questions were asked to you to judge your comprehension. So if you look at the question paper pattern of this paper, you can understand that scheming and scanning type of questions, question number 1A and question number 1B are related to or are such a kind of question, that is a scheming and scanning type of questions. They are just asked to you to judge your comprehension, whether you have really read it or not is generally checked in this question. So these questions were asked also to let you know what exactly the point is, what exactly the lesson is. So we will see it as a tool to understand the text. So we will start the question and answer, and while discussing the question and answer, we will also discuss the text, because this we are considering it as a very significant or appropriate tool to understand the text. So let us read the first question. I would like to suggest you that whenever you have a question paper in front of you, you should read it carefully and then try to answer the question. So let us read first question. See, what happens when a candidate counters the interview? What is the meaning of this question? The meaning of this question is very simple one. It means that what happens when a candidate asks a counter question to the panelist. Generally, what is considered, this is a general notion of an interview, that only the interviewers were allowed to ask the question to the candidate. And when a candidate asks question to the interview panelist, it is a rude kind of behavior from his part. So this is what is asked. What happens when a candidate counters the interviewer? The answer of this question is very simple. The candidate did not get the job. What it means? It means that when a candidate asks a counter question to the interview panelist, it means that he want to rectify the interview panelist, because interview panelist has framed a wrong question, and this candidate try to justify or they try to rectify the interview panelist. Interview panelists are generally, when we were speaking about interview module number 1 part A, we discussed that interview panelists were generally the elder, educated, high profile kind of persons. They were there to judge you. You are not there to judge them. So they are there to ask you question, and you are there to answer their questions. But when a candidate counter questions to this uh, uh, interview panelist, uh, it means you have already lose a job. It means you Or in this text, when we read the first paragraph, we learn that interview panelists have framed a wrong question and candidate wants to rectify him, and as candidate counter questions him, his ego get hurts, and as his ego gets hurts, he rejected candidate outwardly. So this is what happens at the time of interview. And here the author also gives you a very practical kind of advice, that you should not outwit the interview panelists. You should be a humble one. You should uh, you should not counter question them. If you don't know the answer, you just say I don't know the answer, instead of, or don't try to rectify them. So this is what we learn from this question number 1 and from the paragraph 1 of the text. See the second. What is the author's view about inadequate knowledge? See, according to author, a little learning may be a dangerous thing. A lot of it could be a disastrous. So this is what again you can see the answer of second question is again related to the answer of a first question. So when the ego is hurt, when the interview panelists understand that this candidate is over smart, he is rectifying me, and his ego get hurts, he outwardly rejects him. So this is what happens generally. So therefore what the author gives you an advice, a little learning may be a dangerous thing, a lot of it could be a disastrous. So little learning, if you humbly say I don't know, it's okay, but you know the answer, and you know that the interview panelist has uh, uh, committed a mistake, and you try to rectify him, that is a disastrous. So therefore he is saying a little learning may be a dangerous, but a lot of it, lot of knowledge could be a disastrous. So this is what a funny kind of statement he has given us, and this is not only a funny kind of statement, this is again a advice to us that we should not be over smart in the at the time of interview. See the question number 3. When can an interview be an equal contest according to the author? So we read, when we were reading this particular text, we come to know that author has an opinion that this general notion of interview, where the interviewers were asking question to the candidate and candidate were only supposed to answer the question, that is a uh, that is not an equal contest. So what is the equal contest? What is the idea of the author of a equal contest? What is it? See, the candidate should be allowed to ask question in their turn. The candidates should be allowed to ask questions in their turn, and giving jobs to those who can outwit the interviewing boards in the shortest possible time. So this is what he says. He thinks that that is the equal contestant. So not only the interviewers, but the candidates can also ask the question, and the candidate who outwit the interview panelists in the most possible or the shortest possible time, he should be selected. So this is what is asked, this is what is the question answer of this question. So he is saying that uh, this is a wrong thing, this is not unequal thing, that only interviewers will ask the questions and candidate will answer. Instead of that, he is suggesting us that candidate should ask the questions, and he should outwit the uh, interview panelist, and a person who outwit the interview panelist in shortest possible time, he should be selected, he should be appointed. So this is what the equal contestant according to the author. See the next one. What is the result of too much knowledge? We learn this is the again when we think about the question number 2 and question number 1, this question number 4 is also related to 1 and 2. What is a too much knowledge than the knowledgeable member of the board is dangerous. Too much knowledge than the knowledgeable member of board is dangerous. You should not show that you are smarter than the interview panelist. You should not show that you are more knowledgeable than the knowledgeable member of the board. So that is a dangerous one that may hurt the ego of the panelist, and as a result of that you will lose your job. So this is important one. Too much knowledge than the knowledgeable member of a board is a dangerous one. This is the fourth answer of the fourth question. See the fifth one. Answer, sorry, what is the best way to land jobs? So see, what is the best way to land jobs? Answer a fool according to his folly. If you know that the panelist has committed a mistake in framing the question, let him commit the mistake and you should answer that question according to his perception. So candidate should give the answer to the interviewer according to his perception. This is what is the answer of question number 5. So this is what the scheming type of questions in which we learn, or you can understand that when we were answering these questions we have already summarized the text that is prescribed to us. So this scheming then scanning type of question. See the B part. Choose the appropriate alternative and complete the following sentences. Sorry, this is also a scanning type of question. So see, the candidate who came in a silk suit was considered a dash dash and therefore rejected. The answer of this question I have colored it in a blue. The answer of the question is it is a dandy. Dandy means fashionable. If we translate it into a Marathi, it is a negative one. It is not a fashionable. Is You can see a more positive one. But when we see its translation into a Marathi, you can see अनावश्यकपणे नटणारा, नखरेबाज. You can see नखरेबाज. So you can see this is the second paragraph of the text. You can read it that a poor candidate who don't have a silk suit, he borrow a silk suit from a friend and go for an interview to impress the interviewers, but instead of impressing them in a positive way, he impressed them in negative way. So what kind of impression they have impression that a man is like a dandy, nakrebaz hai. So this is what, and this is again a criticism on the interview panelist, that they were judging a personality from his attire, from his clothes. So that is also a wrong thing, that is also a wrong one. So this is what the answer of the first question. The candidate who came in a silk suit was considered a dandy and therefore rejected. So he is not rejected for a subject knowledge, he is not rejected for his mistakes, he is just rejected because he is a dandy. So this is what a prejudice says, or this is, you can see that this is a subjectivity of the interview panelists. Then question number B2. VV Zone feels that interview is an unequal contest. We read the answer of this question when we were reading part A of this question. In that we learned that this is an unequal. VV Jones thinks that this kind of interview is unequal because in this only the interview panelists ask the questions and candidates were answering the questions. That is an unequal. Many times these interview panelists frame wrong questions, and they were expecting the right answer from the candidates. So that is an unequal kind of contest. So equal contest is that a candidate should ask question, should counter the panelist, and the candidate who outwit these panelists in shortest possible time should be selected one. So this is what equal contestant according to VV Jones. This is a very funny one. We can't even imagine this in a real life. But VV Jones is as an author, he is thinking in that term that this should be a equal contestant. Candidate should give the should have given the chance to ask the question to the interview panelists. Then question number 3. See, usually the interviewers have a dash dash for finery. What is it? Usually the interviewers have a prejudice for finery. What is a prejudice? Prejudice means न्यूनगंड. एखाद्या विषयीचा असणारा आधीच एखादं मत आपण तयार केलेलं असतं आणि मग आपण त्या माणसाला जज करतो. दॅट इज अ प्रिजुडाइस. सी वेन ए सिल्क सूट a candidate wear a silk suit of his friend, what they think, they think that it is a he is a dandy. So this is a prejudice. This is a prejudice. So if he is wearing a silk suit, he is a dandy. This is a prejudice. So this should not, or if his pronunciation is very bad, so he is not knowledgeable. This is a prejudice. Prejudice means न्यूनगंड किंवा प्रिजुडाईसचा न्यूनगंड म्हणण्यापेक्षा प्रिजुडाईस can be translated into Marathi as a kind of assumption. एखादे गृहीत धरणं की एखादी गोष्ट ऑलरेडी आपल्या मनामध्ये बाळगणं, that is a prejudice. Then the fourth question, see, the interview board gets hardly dash that minutes to judge and select a candidate. So see, here 20, 10, 25 and 50. So right answer of this question is a 50. So the interview board gets hardly 15 minutes to judge and select a candidate. Understand that 15 minutes are very little time. It is not sufficient time to judge a personality, because personality, you can see that there are several components in a personality, and if we want to judge a personality, we should judge all these components that contribute into a good personality. So if we want to judge all these things, we require a time. But uh, at the time of interview, it is not practical, it is not feasible that you should give a hour to a candidate, because there is a line of a candidates in front of him. So he will judge you how you came in, how you ask permission to came in, what kind of dress you have, what kind of boots you have, what, whether you have combed your hairs or not, how you speak, whether your face is smiling or not, whether you are staring at the eyes of the panelist or what. So all these things are very unnecessary things, but they becomes important in a 15 minutes, because these people gets time of only 15 minutes, and as a result of that, they judge you by your attire, judge you by your pronunciation, judge you by very insignificant things in your personality. Whether you have wear a chappal or a boot, it doesn't matter to your knowledge, but uh, they have a very small time, insufficient time, so they judge you from all these things. So therefore, when we were learning in a skill, first module first part A, you can see we learn very small things. We learn that how to came in, we learn that how to sit, don't loll on the chair, be attentive, do not lose your concentration in the interview, do not tap your hands on the table. So all these things, you may feel that all these are insignificant things, but all these things become important. Why? Because the panelist gets only 15 minutes to judge you, and therefore in this 15 minutes he will judge your attire, all your things he will judge, and with the help of that he will pass a judgment. So this is what part A and part B of this uh, scheming and scanning type of question. And while discussing the scheming and scanning type questions, we have already summarized the unit that we have read earlier. So I feel that it is not a very difficult one, text is not a very difficult one, and the question and answers are also not very difficult one. The only thing is that you should read it, and I assure you that in the examination you will see such these questions uh, at the time of interview, in your examination, in your papers, you will see the same questions. So be particular about all these questions. And when we think about the uh, weightage, there is an equal weightage to the communication skill and the reading comprehension units. Both are important. So read this text. It is a very simple one, funny one, humorous one. Read this text. In the next session we will continue with the second part of this, or the remaining exercise of this unit. See, scheming and scanning type questions is just to revise you, just to remind you the text and whether or judge your understanding. Therefore, scheming and scanning type of questions were asked. Then, in the second part, we will begin with a reading comprehension type of questions, where uh, these questions will judge your comprehension. So this is what is important one. So we will stop here and continue the same in the next session, continue the exercise of this unit. We will stop here. Thank you for listening.